So you're running out of closet space. The good news? You don't need to stop shopping. You just need to start selling with The RealReal. The RealReal is the world's largest and most trusted resource for authenticated luxury resale. Whether it's that mini bag that can't even fit your phone, or those boots you never fully broke in, The RealReal handles everything from photography and copywriting to shipping and pricing. So you can just sit back, get paid, and make room for things that actually feel like you. And with 10,000 plus new arrivals every single day from top designers like Prada, Celine, Louis Vuitton, and Loewe, all for up to 90% off retail, you're bound to find something perfectly on brand to fill that extra closet space with. Plus, right now, you can get an extra $100 to shop when you sell for the first time. Make room for what feels like you. Go to therealreal.com to start selling and get your extra $100 to keep shopping at therealreal.com. That's therealreal.com. Terms apply.
A lot of us, we're very go, go, go. We don't want to quit. We want that next accomplishment. And it almost feels weak when we fail and we fall apart, or we take a knee to decompress and take a breath.
Welcome back to the Two Promises Podcast. Let's dive right into another exciting adventure with BD and crew as he pursues his new passion of one day finding the most epic bourbon. The Two Promises team send their special thanks to Hobie and the Huckleberries for their masterful theme music. So grab a glass, relax, and enjoy responsibly.
Baby says she's leaving if I don't stop drinking wine. So I switched to whiskey, now I'm feeling fine. Drinking that smooth, smooth whiskey. No more wine. I like straight bourbon. Baby, you try the ride.
Welcome back, everyone. Super excited to have you listening in on the newest show. And currently, we have another very special guest. He is a very dynamic individual. I met him in a business mastermind that focused on veterans and entrepreneurship, and he was just crushing it on all levels. He's still very active in the military and literally just got back from a very, very high op tempo deployment yesterday. So he took the time, wanted to get on this call, and we are just super excited to hear from Josh from Absolutely Cosmic Podcast. He's got a lot of really interesting things to share with us. Welcome back, Josh.
Thank you for having me on. It's an honor. It's really cool to see your flow, you and your element. I saw your eyes light up with your intro, and it's awesome to see fellow podcasters in their element. So
yeah, absolutely. It's been so cool to see you grow on the business side. Your hands are in so many pots right now, but you're also just crushing it in service to your country. You're working with very, very elite units, and you're working extremely hard over there. So as you're back, do you mind just telling us a little bit about how your deployment was, what it was like, and then we'll get into a few questions from there.
Yeah, definitely. So if you don't know, I'm a C-130H Loadmaster. So my job is basically in the back of the cargo compartment of our aircraft. I load, I unload the aircraft. I do weight and balance. When airdrop missions are set, that's another mission capability we have. We have some other stuff down the pipeline that's kind of working for our career field. But typically we have air, land, and airdrop. In flight, we're scanning for threats. We're scanning hydraulic systems. We're making sure that cargo stays secure. We manage passengers. And this past deployment was my second deployment out to the Horn of Africa. We were operating in countries like Somalia and Kenya, flying every other day, kicking it out there with a lot of tier 2 operators. We were supporting their operations as they're, kicking down doors and putting out the good fight. A lot of MARSOC Raiders and Green Berets right now, which is really mind-blowing to go from being a kid who would watch like cartoons and movies and Rambo, and then being on a podcast with you, a former SEAL, working with those guys downrange. I had this whoa, wait a minute. I just got to do a lot of cool stuff for the past 3 months and flying, every other day. We're moving a lot of cargo. We did medevacs, just a lot of different stuff that you don't do in the stateside. And being my second deployment out to that region of the world, it was kind of like my second home.
That's awesome. That's so cool to hear. And that is one thing that I definitely miss about my time in the military is the amount of things that you do in such a short period of time is really mind-blowing whenever you're talking about just your pre-deployment training into the deployment, all the things you accomplish on the deployment. And it hits so many different like spheres, strategic, tactical, on the ground, different areas of personal development in your life. And you're just doing so many things. Then whenever you transition to, say, outside of the military, that pace slows down. You're not hitting all these crazy dynamic, like, I just did 58 missions. You know what I'm saying? It slows way down, and the amount of things that you influence, it gets, in my opinion, it seems like it just gets drawn out on a longer timeline. So you don't get as many of those just endorphin rushes and dopamine hits.
I think one thing about, especially being a loadmaster specifically, that we share kind of with you guys is like our job is very, when we're loading and engines are running and we're in these airfields that are potentially contested. I mean, there was a few nights where we were getting intel briefs and had to bring on extra body armor because they're like, there may or may not be something going on tonight in this location that we're going to. And so like the adrenaline's up there, you're hyper aware. So like coming back home, and again, being my second deployment, I kind of know that it takes a little time to readjust, but coming back home, it's definitely true. Like you just feel like this, like everything's a bit slower. There's a different pace. There's almost like this, like I got to be going and doing, and like actually relaxing is more intentional. Like I actually have to take a time to be like, no, take a minute. We're not rushing around. We're not trying to get XYZ. Like take a breath. You're off. You're off. You get to relax. And I have to be more intentional about that. And now being my second time, there's a little more awareness with that, but for sure. And I love it though. I love the adrenaline rush that comes from doing our job.
Big time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's such a great thing that you're recognizing that and that you're noticing it. And I mean, your job is so incredibly valuable. Whenever we were in Afghanistan, our main supply route was heavily IED'd, getting the support to get all the moving parts to get traditional resupply for like what most outposts were getting at the time was a lot more logistically complicated. And coincidentally, we didn't get that type of resupply as often. So we had to coordinate airdrops on a regular basis just to get our basic necessities, diesel fuel, water, food, all those things. So we would be on the ground doing the calls and confirming LZ, all those things, getting these things coordinated, getting them dropped. And for the most part, the drops went off without a hitch. There was one where it was a little too close and it was a little, I think it landed on a building, like literally right outside the base too. So it was, it's never a dull moment.
Yeah, 100%. You could blame the navigator for that one. I'm just kidding. But again, it's an honor. And it's cool to be able to work with you guys like operationally. Like I think that's the sweet spot about aviation is you could be working with other aviation packages like fighters and moving their equipment, their maintainers, their pilots, right? You could be moving just conventional forces or conventional equipment. And then like one thing that we moved a few times was UAV drones. Like you could move UAV drones one day and you just never know what you're going to get. We moved an LMTV. We got it like the night before, loaded up to our load planning software that goes out from every airfield. And it kind of just does like all the mixing of it between the front end and pilot magic and our stuff. It kind of gives us a little information on that. And I remember some of our supervisors were like, hey, you're moving, we call them a T3. It's 3 separate pallets. So, it's a big boy. It's you got to really be sharp with your upload and get it really marshaled in line. So you never know, again, being a loadmaster, you never know who you're going to work with and what cargo you're going to get. And I appreciate the support from, it's always awesome to have some of the, what we call you guys, the snake eaters all hyped up about us coming in.
Yeah, dude, it's always great to have you guys because you guys bring so many capabilities to the table. And really, if it weren't for you guys, we wouldn't be able to do our jobs without being able to get resupplies, without being able to get diesel fuel, without being able to get weapons, equipment, ammunition, or even us moved around the theater. I mean, we're dead in the water. So it's always been a pleasure. I've always had great experiences working with the aviation side for sure. So you talked a little bit about it. I want to kind of circle back there. You talked about, hey, growing up, being really involved in the comic books, having these superheroes. And now, like you said, you're kind of living that life. You are that superhero. You've like turned yourself into the person that you kind of imagine. So putting that front and center, why do you think there's such a huge crossover between special operations community and, let's just say, nerd culture?
I think, well, one, this is kind of a thing that I've kind of observed is that when you're in a highly adrenaline or high intensity career field where you need to be on point, if you're not on point, you get hurt, you damage something that's, almost irreplaceable in the moment, someone can get killed, right? And so like for the type, you have to be a type A, lean forward type person. You have to get it done. Like if that mission's not completed, again, people can get hurt. People will not live potentially. All of our jobs in the military are important, but those jobs that have a very critical, specific mission, that's a lot of pressure on people. And I think for those of us who kind of grew up in that nerdier or like Dungeons and Dragons, video games, comic books, action figures and trading cards and all that stuff, I think it's kind of like a way for us to decompress and also process some of that stuff that we experience on a subconscious level. Because I think a lot of times, especially when you're in that moment, you don't realize how much you're soaking in and how much like the experience that you have, but your subconscious is, your brain is. So like when you go to bed at night and you can't sleep and you're like, that restlessness, it could be because you didn't decompress properly or you didn't get to process it. So I think a lot of times these superheroes and comic books, that's part of it, helps you decompress. But I also think for a lot of us, we want to live up to a standard to help others and be there for others. That's the biggest thing. We go for love and country. No one joins the military to make, $1 million a year. We join because we have a deeper reason, a call to service, call for our country. And so like a lot of these heroes, they embody that. They embody that idea of sacrificing a little bit of yourself, or in a lot of cases, a lot and everything of yourself for others to make sure that others are okay, others are free, others are safe. And so I think we can align our morals in that way with superheroes a lot of time. And when you pair it with a character that has cool superpowers or is kind of badass, like you're like, okay, like I can get behind this character. They speak to me, so to speak.
That's very great points. You touched on a couple areas there that I want to dive a little deeper into. So you're talking about a way to decompress, which I think's super important. And it's a lesson that I learned kind of the hard way. Going through life, whatever that life is, you're going to be exposed to things. You're going to be taking on things. Just like you said, you're going to be needing to process them. And processing them whenever you're just going from deployment to deployment, move. You've always got this new mission. You're always pushing yourself to be better. You're always doing all those incremental steps that the mentors are pushing into you. Your leadership's pushing into you. Your old guys are pushing into you. And you're always training for that next level of leadership, that next level of success. And a lot of times that decompression and that processing kind of falls to the wayside. It definitely did for me in a big way. And all of a sudden, all of it kind of hit me all at once like a freight train. That slowed me down. That changed my life. A lot of big changes happened. There's a really great book called The Body Keeps the Score, where it talks about how your body builds up all of these different things, and it can manifest itself. It can express itself in very different ways. So just for sustainment, like coming out of the military and I was still stuck on high performance, elite performance, maximizing human performance. What can I do to just help myself and others always take that next ridgeline and always take that next level? And I think in all of that, having not processed it, it was like these two vectors just collided, and it was like a massive explosion in my body and in my mind. So I've been picking up the pieces from that fallout. But whenever you said decompress, I just really wanted to touch on that for the listeners, for somebody who is in one of these high-speed environments. And even if you're not, just know whatever you're inputting, your body is absorbing. The body is keeping that score. Good, bad, ugly, whatever it might be, you're going to have to deal with that at some point. That is going to have to be processed in some way or another. So find those healthy ways to help you process it and don't ignore it, or you might have a big explosion like I found myself in.
Well, one, I want to say, I appreciate your vulnerability, you sharing that experience, and like the fact that you're rebuilding shows an incredible amount of human strength that you have. After my first, I don't know if you could hear, there's some sirens going on in the city. After my first deployment, I kind of had a similar thing. It wasn't even as high tempo as this deployment, but you come back and it's a change of pace. You got to get back into the human life. And I just kind of went back into it. I didn't give myself any grace, any time. And I crumbled. I ended up just going into a very dark spot mentally, mental health wise. And so like that has been a very big intentional part of my life going forward. And I knew this deployment would be kind of a test that being able to rebuild, we're going on a deployment again. Let's try it again and let's do it with a little bit more systems. One thing is, especially us type A individuals who are very like goal driven, who are very ambitious, who have high tempo, high intensity jobs or high output jobs. And it doesn't have to be like military or law enforcement or first responder, but you could be, an accountant that works at a very large firm that's very busy. All these stressors manifest in such different ways for every person. It's perspective based too. And so like a lot of us, we're very go, go, go. We don't want to quit. We want that next accomplishment. And it almost feels weak when we fail and we fall apart, or we take a knee to decompress and take a breath. And I want to hit on a note that there's a story I heard, the chaplain on our base, he mentioned, he said that there was 2 lumberjacks in a forest once. And one of them just kept cutting throughout the whole day. And he noticed he got to 10, he got to 15 trees. And then he got to, 17, and then he got to 18. And by the end of the day, he only got 19 trees. So this other lumberjack, he starts off, he gets 5 trees. He takes a break, he drinks some water, he eats a little snack. He gets another 5, he gets another 5. He's at 15. He goes in, he has lunch, he sharpens his blade, he sits by the fire, and he comes out and he ends up doing 25 versus the one who went straight through and was going hard the whole time got 19. And the moral of that story is that sometimes, and not sometimes, but the majority of the time in life, when you take a step to sharpen that axe blade, you come out much more productive in the long run. And so like if you take care of yourself, especially after a period of high intensity, or even if it's just your 9 to 5 and it's just your 30 minutes a day of maybe journaling or reading something or quiet time on a walk with your dog or whatever it may be. And we can go in, I guess, what's worked for me if you'd like to go in deeper, I guess, what kind of systems I put in place after that last deployment to kind of rebuild and restructure.
Yeah,
But
that
for
sounds
me,
great.
thank you. Yeah,
Go
for
ahead.
me personally, it was fitness. Like I always enjoyed fitness, but I realized fitness was that first thing. If you're anxious, you're stressed, you're depressed, you're going through a rough breakup, right? Go to the gym, move that energy, move the body, lift some weights, be angry, sit with those feelings in the gym and do something. Especially as men, we're machines, we're built to move. So like get that initial restless, upset energy, that initial fluster of energy out. Be tired. That's good. The best motivator for a 6-pack is heartbreak. So, um, but it's true. And then the next one is the information we put in our brains, right? The podcasts we listen to. Are you listening to the people in your life who may have a negative perspective and negative limiting beliefs? And are you listening to things that are not going to help you? Dark things, sad music constantly. The light, that's a form of information. It's sensory input. Are you going outside, getting enough light? Is your apartment, your house, your room are you able to put the shades up? How much are you actually, again, and that's why I put working out as the bottom. If you think of it as like a triangle at the bottom, how much are you moving? How much are you eating? And all that information that we're putting into our body. What are you listening to? What music you listen to? You listen to podcasts? Have you read? And that goes into the next little step, which I call kind of like the spiritual or the small goals. Because the first 2, if you're starting to rebuild yourself, kind of happen naturally typically. It's usually we watch motivational videos or we watch some podcasts, we start getting back in the gym, we start feeling really good. But then you start stagnating again. You might feel stale in the gym. And one thing that I noticed is make a to-do list, is small victories, set some super small goals, like making your bed every day, doing the dishes, having a system about cleaning the house. That's something that changes the whole atmosphere. Maybe it's taking one online college class, whatever it may be, just super small goals that you can chip away at, that that while they're challenging, you still can accomplish, that the light is at the end of the tunnel. And it's something that if you venture there, you can accomplish it. You just need to put a little bit of work in. And so like those small goals lead into bigger goals, but they create this foundation of confidence in your day and in your weeks and in your months and in your years that over time you're like, okay, well, I went to the gym for 30 days straight. I was making my bed, my apartment's clean. Maybe I stopped drinking for every day of the week, whatever it may be. You clean it up a little bit and you start to set these goals. You're like, okay, well, what's the next challenging thing? And more often than not, it snowballs upward. You're like, okay, well, if I've been running every day, well, let's do a 5K. And I've done 3 5Ks, this past, 2 months. Let's do maybe a 10K, and let's do a half marathon, and let's do a full marathon. Screw it. And like, I've noticed that looking at the small stuff has led to accomplishing the mountain. And with the small stuff, it allows you to take a step down, right? And that's why I call it's kind of like the third step up on that pyramid that we're starting to get smaller and more specific. But with the small goals, you also have to take time to breathe and be proud of yourself and forgive yourself for falling apart, because it may not have been completely your fault, but damn well, if you're in this point where you're aware enough that you fell and you're trying to rebuild it, that's a hell of a step. And so it's these little chunks of things, right? Just be proud of yourself for the small stuff you did. Like, hey, I did make the bed. Hey, I did wake up. I set this goal and I stood to it. And even if we're not there at the end goal yet, and we're at the end of the timeline, we stuck to it. And that means I'm the man, and that means I can do anything. So let's give myself another 6 months and let's keep trying towards this goal, or let's adjust. And I think that's where the military mindset comes in, because a lot of times we have mission objectives, we have goals, right? And if they're not accomplished, you have to just reassess and reattack. And so you take that objective mindset of you just had to do it and take that into your life and take the time to just sit in that feeling. That's another thing at that third step, I think, is just sit in those feelings. When you feel crappy, when you feel sad, when you feel overwhelmed because you just got back from a deployment, or maybe it's end of tax season and you're an accountant and you're like, oh man, what just happened? And it feels like a blur. Take a moment to sit there and be like, well, let's explore it in our head. Why? What is it? What are we thinking? Where are those feelings in my body? A lot of times that allows you to just process it. And a lot of times that itself lets those feelings go by just accepting them and not lingering with them, or let them sit at the back of your head. Because it sits at the back of your head, and that weight on your neck hurts, and that weight on your shoulder hurts, and that weight on your back hurts. And then next thing you know, your whole body hurts and you're tired all the time, and it's a snowball effect either way. So choose that time to reset the goals. We did it. I'm still feeling crappy. Why is that? So you sit in your feelings, you set small goals, and you just be proud of yourself for those small goals, or even big goals if you've accomplished them. Don't let anybody tell you any different. You did something awesome, like you just crushed tax season, even if it burnt you out a little bit, you crushed tax season as an accountant, and don't let anybody take that from you. You've been working out for 30 days straight. It doesn't matter if you're 10 minutes on a treadmill. Don't let anybody take that from you. And then the top, the tip of the pyramid is what I call spirituality. It looks different for everybody. I was raised Catholic. I'm a Christian. And for me, it's about a relationship with God and reading the Bible. A lot of times for me, that's my spiritual guidance, being able to read the Bible and say, well, how does this relate to my life and who I'm trying to be and the man I'm trying to become? And it also gives me a feeling of rest. I'm like, okay, well, my whole life isn't under my control. It's under the control of this all-powerful, all-intelligent creator, Jesus, and God the Father and the Trinity. So I'm just going to trust that if I'm doing the right things, life will work out. And these feelings are just feelings. I'm a human being, a machine, a bio machine. So trust that it'll all work out. I think that's the tip of the sphere, is that spirituality. Meditation does that too. That kind of bridges the gap between the two. That's just kind of my thought process.
Yeah, that's super awesome. I like the triangle, the pyramid, the absolutely cosmic's hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
Getting some workout in, getting that breathing in, spirituality up there at the peak. So you touch on something that I thought was really interesting whenever you're talking about, hey, maybe you did fall down. Maybe you got knocked down. You didn't hit that goal. Life happened. Major car accident, injury, who knows? You're derailed majorly in some way. You brought up some really good points. Bad things happen. Sometimes it's your fault. Sometimes it's not. But whenever you said you have the self-awareness to recognize it, you have the self-awareness to say, hey, this still isn't where I want to be. So I think that is a major defining factor in the difference between falling into a victim mindset, where you're constantly stewing on it. You're letting what happened shape your new reality.
Mm-hmm.
Transition from that. Hey, okay, yes, this happened. Yes, I've got a lot of big pieces to pick up. Yes, it's going to take a long time to pick these pieces up, but I'm not going to stay here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to let that major negative event in my life keep me down. I'm going to stand back up. I'm going to, yes, take that breath, breathe, sit with it, process it, look at the rubble. You mentioned the Bible, so I'll bring a story from there. We've got Job. Job lost everything. Job was targeted at a very high spiritual level, very spiritual warfare, heavy spiritual warfare, lost everything, lost his family, lost his income, lost everything that he'd been blessed with throughout his life, right? He sat with it. He sat with it for a while. He scraped his skin with the pot shards and sat in the ash. And yeah, so you're absolutely right. You've got to say that gives you that processing. That is an important and healthy step. But he didn't stay there. He got back up.
Mhm.
He recognized truth. He realigned himself with truth, purpose, etc., and he kept moving, right? So I'm so glad that you brought some of those things up, because sometimes whenever it's very devastating, it can be easy to fall into a victim mindset. It can be easy to notice that your language isn't necessarily aligning, your self-talk isn't necessarily aligning. And if you've got other complex issues, complex trauma, traumatic brain injury, anything like this, it can accelerate and perpetuate those things. So you really have to be cognizant, aware, and on it to help pull yourself out of those spirals as quickly as you possibly can.
Yes, 100%. You hit it on the nail on the head. Catching yourself in that moment, that is something that I had to work a lot on. Was when I started getting down or stressed out, I would just be like, I don't know why I'm so stressed out, blah, blah. And I realized that it was just a recurring theme of a few thought processes. And it was a little bit of like self-esteem. And I was like, wait a minute, let's hold on. That first of all, if I'm at work, you don't get the time in my day, or if I'm working on the business, you don't get the time in my day to do that. We'll assess it later. And that oftentimes works. And it's weird because you have almost a self-talk with yourself in your own head, but it works like a charm. And then also say like the same thing is like, no, that's incorrect. This is why. And you reframe the thought process. So if it's like, hey, I know after my heartbreak, I was like, I'm never going to find anybody else. And it's like, hey, wait a minute. No, what we need to do is take the time to just work on ourselves a little bit. And the right person with the right traits that you're looking for in a partner will come eventually. And as you just keep repeating that, it's almost a battle of wills to yourself. And eventually, it's almost like the tides turn a little bit and it starts to be where you find positives of things, and it's more positive thoughts because you've almost essentially rewired parts of that brain that are that thought process, that neural pathway.
Yeah, very great point. You've got those neural pathways. Any thought, any movement is going to, exercise movement is going to reinforce that pathway. That's what your muscle memory is, but it's a lot of times really like that neurotransmitter process, right?
Mhm.
So it happens with our movements, with our ability to transition to our pistol and take effective shots, but it also happens with the thoughts that we feed ourselves.
Okay.
So I'm so glad that you made that parallel, because those thoughts that we have, they dictate our reality in so many ways. So one of the things that's really fascinated me about the military is the wide variety of people that you're going to run into, right? So secret nerds, overt nerds, whatever, but you've got people playing D&D, you've got gamers that are all super into the digital video games, anime fans, whatever it might be, your gym jockeys, your more entrepreneurial focused guys who are, studying accounting or stock trading and investing. You know what I mean? There's like such a diversity. So you have synthesized a lot of these, really. And that's one thing that I thought was like really impressive whenever we first met. I mean, you're still pretty young, but you just had this tenacity, this desire. You're just attacking life on all levels. You're deploying with high elite level units. You're building a business. You've got a podcast going. You've got all these goals. You've been working on like whole card games, like trading card games, like Magic the Gathering or Pokemon, and like all these very intricate things. Then you started a coaching, training, workout business. You're training for triathlons. So you've just got so many things going on, and it's amazing to see. So while you're doing this, launching comics, making figures, and maybe this deployment kind of helped show you this, but target discrimination. We can't shoot everything. How are you deciding right now in real time which of these projects is your primary target and which ones are just targets of opportunity for the moment?
So for me personally,
Thank you for joining us today on this curious roller coaster of life. If this is your stop, please exit peacefully. Enjoy the rest of your day. If you're ready for another one, just push play. Just a final note before you go, thank you, and thank you for feeling. The distillation and aging process is different for everyone. I'm not quite sure what you're ready for. Sip slowly and enjoy responsibly.
Baby says she's leaving if I don't stop drinking wine. So I switched to whiskey and I'm feeling fine. Drinking that slow whiskey. No more